So welcome to some live play of Age of Ascension. I'm sitting down with my good buddy Josh, and we are just cranking out a whole bunch of Age of Ascension games. Both he and I are going to be using Age of Ascension decks only, so you won't see any Age of Ascension or Call of the Archons interactions. But what you will see are, I think 2 or 3 of his decks. I think 2 he plays a couple times, just because he liked the feel of them. I don't think I repeated a single deck. I think I repeated or went through all of my decks, 1 deck per game. So this first game takes a little bit for us to get going. First and foremost, sorry about the shakiness of the camera. I don't have a whole bunch of professional filming equipment, so I worked best with what I got. So if the camera quality isn't that great or the camera bounces too much, just apologizing for that ahead of time. I am playing Vexer, the King Scammer, in this deck, in this match. Link for the deck list is in the description below. And I don't remember what decks Josh is playing in each game, so I won't be linking his deck lists. If you can kind of figure it out from the video, go ahead and give it a look, but other than that, sorry about the inconvenience of that. It does take us a little bit to get going here. We were trying to figure out the setup and what deck he wanted to play, shuffling. We also hadn't seen each other in a while, so we're doing a lot of talking about just life in general too. And he starts with a double 6 to get first player. So Vexer the King Scammer is houses Dis, Logos, and Shadows. Out of Dis, there's a decent amount of artifact control. There's some creature control as well. It's a very control-y deck, so it's very much my playstyle. I think it's one of my strongest decks just by looking at the deck list. Stats support that just a little bit, but I don't know how accurate the statistics are for this set just yet. Camera angle, you can probably decipher some of the cards that both of us have. Problem being, I don't think you can see them too clearly unless you're really familiar with the art. I had a Poltergeist in my starting hand, and then I also had a bunch of later game cards. You'll see me going through my deck here. I put my mulligan hand into my deck upside down, so I'm just going back through, turning everything right side up before I shuffle. And just for preface, we're playing casually. We're just hanging out at mine and my fiance's place and just throwing some keys. So you'll see that I'm shuffling where it's called bleeding if you're open with that card game term. I'm showing him basically what deck is on the what cards on the bottom of my deck. I do that just because it's easier on my wrists. I do have, I type all day, computer all day for work. So it's just easier on my wrists to do that. In competition, I definitely make sure that I don't show my opponents my cards at all. We're also going to make a whole bunch of play mistakes. We're going to take some stuff back from time to time. But we're learning these new decks, learning the new card interactions, and we were distracting ourselves by just chatting about life. So if you see anything that we misplayed that we didn't then remedy, I'm going to try and catch all of them while I'm doing this voiceover commentary. But if we didn't catch all of them, please let us know, because we want to make sure we don't mess them up next time. We think we caught most things. So he's going to start with a Hideaway Hole, and Shadows just gets him a bonus amber. I remember that this was an interesting starting hand for me. I think I had a Poltergeist, Merkins, some other stuff. So I start with Logos, drop a Titan Mechanic, and then a Dexter. Dexter is a legacy card in this deck. He was not printed in this set, so it's not a terrible legacy card, honestly, in this deck. I actually like it because there's ways to keep Dexter from clogging up my deck. I can archive the cards in my deck with some, I think I have a ZYX Researcher in there. I have a couple ways to deal with Dexter if he starts to clog up my deck or hand. And the play speed that we're going at is much slower than most of us like. It's, again, we're just learning the interactions. This is, I think, the first time that Josh is actually sitting down to play a game. I know he's gone through his deck lists quite a bit. So just learning the interactions. So bear with us with how slow we're playing. But he goes into Mars with an Ixaly Fixfinger, a Mind Worm, then a Mars first to ready and reap with the Mind Worm. Then I'm playing Shadows. I drop a Yancey Gang on the left flank to get the Titan Mechanic off there. And then I drop a Sucker Punch to take out the Mind Worm. And since the target was killed from Sucker Punch, I archived it. I didn't want that Mind Worm to stay on the board, because then he could just hit my Titan Mechanic and make that kill both his neighbors, basically. But he's going to Dis, drops a Lash Broken Dreams, and plays a Yerk to get rid of a Nerve Blast from his hand. And then he's going to put, what is that, Soul Keeper on Ixaly Fixfinger. I think I'm not looking at the exact cards, trying to remember the wording, but it's on Destroy, kill your opponent's strongest creature. So I go back in the Shadows, Yancey Gang action to steal 1, and I drop a Whistling Dart just to do some splash damage and get a bonus Amber. Then I play Merkins, and I'm going to play the top card of his deck, which gives me a Gub. And unfortunately that has to put Gub on a flank, so he doesn't get his extra +5 power and taunt. But it does get a creature out of his deck and put it on my board. And this deck has 2 Merkins. I was just thinking about what he's trying to do here. He's just going to play an Unlock Gateway. It's just going to clear our board and ends his turn because it's an Omega card. And at simultaneous death, you can choose the order in which cards enter your discard pile. We're starting to see cards this set where the top card of your discard pile matters. So keep that in mind. If there's a simultaneous death, choose the order they go into your discard. But I start the turn with a 3 Fates, which just gets me a bonus Amber. There are no creatures on the board. Then I play a Poltergeist to get rid of his Lash of Broken Dreams. And I drop a Streak. So Streak is when it's not on a flank, your opponent draws or resets their hand to 1 fewer cards. So it's Succubus, but it's conditional in that Streak needs to not be on a flank. And he stays in Shadows. He puts a Bone Rot Venom on Streak. So if I use Streak at all, it takes 2 damage and would kill him. He also is going to play Perplexing Sophistry, but he misread the card, so we start fumbling around with Amber here and resetting the order in which he wants to play it. Sequencing in Age of Ascension is far, far more important than in Call of the Archons. there's a lot, especially in Mars and Shadows, there's a lot of friendly, if you have more amber, if you have less amber. So we're just talking through this a few times and getting to the ultimate end goal that he wanted to play things in the right sequence. So he does put the Bone Rot Venom on streak, and then he plays Perplexing Sophistry eventually. Puts Knuckles Bolton out, Nerve Blast to kill streak and steal 1 amber, which means he has more amber than me now, so then his Perplexing Sophistry actually works. See, we got there. We got there. It just took us some time. Shuffle things out, and he makes me discard a backup copy, which I wasn't... Of all the cards in my hand, that was probably the least important one for me to keep. I peek at my archives because I forget that it's a Sucker Punch, and then I claim Shadows. So I play Sucker Punch just to do 2 damage to Knuckles, and not just, but to get a bonus amber as well. And that won't kill Knuckles because he's power 3, so instead of archiving Sucker Punch, I have to play it and discard it. And then I Special Delivery, bonus amber, and then Ronnie Wrist Clocks. So I steal 1. If he were to have 7 or more amber, I would have stolen 2, but I just steal 1. So I'm sitting on 7 amber, check to my first key, and he has 5 amber. So he's in House Dis. He plays a Life Ward. And for Call of the Archon cards that are reprinted, I'm not going to regurgitate what they do. I'm really just trying to show off what some of the new Age of Ascension cards can do. And in some games you see my decks not really do that much. But he plays Exhume, which allows him to go into his discard pile and play any creature from it as if it were of the active house. And then he plays a Charette to make Gub not on a flank, so he has +5 power and taunt. Charette captures 3, so I'm no longer in check. And then he plays an Amber Imp. The Amber Imp is anytime a creature reaps, stun it. And it doesn't differentiate friendly or enemy, so it's any creature. So now I'm dealing with the need to get my Amber off of Charette, but also try and keep him off of a key. My Shadows has, for this set, the Age of Ascension set doesn't have a ton of cheating. Doesn't have a lot of Amber Steel. And it requires more tactical play on potentially saving some cards. You might have to let your opponent get their first key a little sooner than you'd like, but you definitely need to manage your cards much more efficiently. So I use Special Delivery and purge that Amber Imp, but I'm playing House Logos. I remember swearing at him because he didn't have 8 amber. Otherwise, Cutthroat Research would have stolen 2 amber. Instead, I just played it for the bonus amber. I personally just know how Josh plays, and I know he doesn't like to get a ton of extra amber because he knows I love the steel decks. So if he can hover around 6 or 7, he usually does. I play an Igor, so I look at the top 3 cards in my deck. Keep 1, discard 2. I get rid of a Binate Rupture. I forget what the other one was. But then I drop Archimedes and a Research Smoko. So Archimedes gives both now my Igor and my Archimedes, or my Research Smoko, they have destroyed Archive this card, or Archive this creature. I'm only on 5 amber as well. Alright. So it looks like this turn just took a little bit for things to get going, but he's going to say Mars. Drops his Ixley Fixed Finger, which gives, sorry, I don't think I recited it earlier. Ixley Fixed Finger gives all other friendly Mars creatures +1 armor. Drops a Zorg, and then he plays a Mind Worm again. And we both use different counters. That blue shield-looking token that you see on Zorg is what he uses as his stun markers. And so then he played the Ixlix Beam Buckler, or no, that's Tixel, sorry. Tixel Beam Buckler, which on play does 2 damage to an enemy creature that moves them around. He just does 2 damage to Archimedes to kill him. Then he drops a Glixel Proliferator. And notice that on Glixel Proliferator, it's not a May. So if you have a Mars card in your discard pile, you must archive it. I'm playing Dis, and I play Misery Exploit. There's only 1 damaged creature on his battle line, so I take 1 amber. Then a Hysteria, I just bounce everything back to our hands. I don't have really any direct damage in this deck, so I needed to get that amber off of Shret just in case he could steal some. Plus, I'm hoping that clogs his hand a little bit, so he's not cycling his hand and drawing very much. I play a Schuler and then a Bloodshard Imp. Bloodshard Imp is anytime a creature reaps, its controller must sacrifice it. And then I play an Exhume to bring that Merkins back. Play Merkins, and then I get to use the top card, or play the top card of my opponent's deck, or their card from their archives. And the card that I pulled, I think it's Furtive Investors. I had more amber, so the card doesn't trigger, because it requires your opponent to have more amber than you. So I just get the bonus amber, and then it's discarded. So I'm on Super Check with 11. Still don't have my first key yet, though, but he's on his first key and only has 1 amber in his pool. Now with this deck my deck having 2 Merkins and an Exhume, I have ways to recycle that Merkins. Whether it's a super strong card effect or not, I'm not quite sure. It's a very fun effect, so I just love playing it. And he's back in Mars. I did bounce a lot of Mars creatures to his hand, so he plays Tixel Beambuckler to kill my Bloodshard Imp. Plays the Fixed Finger, and then plays Proliferator out on the left flank. Stim Rager, I forget its full name. So on fight, it does 2 damage. Fixed Finger, Mind Worm, and I think that's his Zorg on the far right flank. Yep. So I forge at current cost of 6. And very quickly, what I thought was good board state turned out to be awful. He's just got a monstrous Mars house in this deck. But I am playing Shadows, so I will Reap with Merkins, and then I play Ronnie Wrist Clocks to steal 1. Then I drop the Scowly Caper on his far flank, so his Proliferator is no longer on a flank. And then I call that good there. So I'm again on check with 7. So even though I started behind, I feel okay in this position because I can catapult into my second key. I can forge 2 keys potentially in 2 turns. I pop out my phone here trying to check out my Master Vault. Little lull in here. He was, during this whole time, if I remember right, he was complaining that he didn't quite know what to do. He honestly, when I was looking at his board, I was just like, why are you not just reaping with Mars? just a reap. And he just said that he wanted to see more of the deck. He wanted to try and get the combos going and see what synergies it had. But in competitive play, he absolutely would have just kept reaping, because he's got a key per round there. He's got 6 amber if I can't do anything about his board. He discards a Misery Exploit and plays a Charette, so he's in dis. And he drops a Gub on the far left flank to protect his Proliferator. At the end of his turn, the Scowly Caper has to kill one of his neighbors, so he chose to kill the Gub. So I say Shadows again. I reap twice. I probably jumped the gun here trying to slingshot in that key. I was going to play Nerve Blast, and I actually looked at his amber pool and saw he had 0. Big part of my turn was I was going to play or reap twice and then try and start dealing some damage. So I just call it quits there because in my hand I had a Miasma and a Nerve Blast, neither of which would have helped me in that moment. So I should have gone with a different house. But he plays his own Scowly Caper against me. And then he puts a Bone Rot Venom, or no, a Dusk Runner, sorry, on Scowly Caper. So it gains Reap, Steal 1. And then he's going to play Oubliette on my Scowly Caper. So it's a power 3 or less creature, and he just purges it. Definitely knew he had to deal with that Scowly Caper or he was going to start eating his battle line. Scowly Caper is by far one of my favorite creatures in this set. And I can't see what he's playing over there. I think he does eventually adjust it to keep things in camera. But it looks like it's a Gamgee. And I go Shadows again. And then I play Nerve Blast to steal 1. If I do 2 damage. So I'm going to kill his Scowly Caper, just so I don't have to deal with that effect either. And I'm going to check at 8. And that's toward my second key. And I'm also just checking my discard pile. I think I drew an Exhume. I try to look through my discard pile a few times in each game. That way I'm trying to keep my opponent from thinking, oh, well, they just drew something that deals with their discard pile. If I'm looking at it at random times, it's one for my own knowledge of what I have, what I haven't seen, so what I could still draw into, but also keeps my opponent from just immediately saying, oh, well, he's now got an Exhume because he played one earlier. His deck might have multiple. So he's in Mars again. He puts the red ray gun. So he's got 7 Mars creatures on the board. I have 0. So on that 1 reap, he can do 7 damage. So that's how he killed my Schuler. And he's going to reap across the board and remove Zorg's Stun, which gives him a huge Amber Burst here. And then he drops his Key Abduction. This is the play that won him this game. Spoilers, look out! But he gets a massive Amber Burst out of his entire board, plays Key Abduction, and I believe this key's for free because he had 16. No, 4, 15. So he has 11 in his hand. So he still gets his second key, and then he's immediately got enough amber for his third. A really gross play. A lot of his decks actually have key abduction, so as you're going through this series, you'll see it played a lot. Makes me jealous because I love how accessible key abduction is now in this set. And then he's just going to go through and play out his Mars line. I think he messes up the order slightly. So you'll see him, he plays out a bunch of creatures, and I think he rearranges them. Which I don't care. Again, I was saying we were just playing things for fun. So I don't mind redoing, because the way we learn initially is just by moving stuff around. And I think, yeah, I'm the one that mentioned, don't you want to keep Proliferator on a flank? So that's why he moved him. And you'll see he gestured like the way he is keeping his line set up. So his Zorg is supposed to be the neighbor to Mindworm. So his second line is kind of just wrapping around like a candy cane. I forged my second key. I've got 2 amber toward my third. I forget why I'm looking through my deck. I don't remember what I had in my hand at this point, and I can't see it too well. I have a Soul Keeper, I think that is. I'm definitely just looking around, trying to figure out what I'm able to do to steal. So there's that Exuma I was talking about. I think I had that from the turn before. I would love to be able to have a something to pull an action or non-creature out of my discard pile, because I would love to Exuma Schuler, play Hysteria, get Hysteria back in hand later in the game, and then be able to bounce some creatures up and down. So we are both on 2 keys, 5 amber. So with how lopsided this game is, we're at least game state wise in terms of keys and amber equal. His board is kicking my ass though, so I'm not feeling too great about where this game's going. I think this is where he just finally says, I'm just going to reap with everything. Stop me if you can. But I think he does play one more dis hand before he just decides to reap with everything. Yeah, I think I've got a big hand of logo stuff. I see an Archimedes and an Igor in there. I don't see the others. I think one was the ZYX Researcher. So he goes to 6 amber. 7 amber. Removes a stun. 8 amber. 9 amber. 10, 11, 12 amber total, I believe. This was definitely his, well, can you steal 7? He's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, yeah. Oh, yeah. I have a miasma in my hand from many turns ago. And with his Glixel Proliferator, I just really suspect that he reaped and archived his key abduction. So then even if I did play Miasma, he would still be able to get his key, because Miasma only makes him skip his forge step, where key abduction happens in the action step. So I play Logos, I play Igor to draw some cards. Then I play Redacted. I saw Redacted so late. And there's my Professor Sutterkin, which I wanted much earlier because I wanted that card draw. And there's nothing I can do. So I just look at the bottom here. I unlocked Gateway. That would have absolutely changed the game. First time he played all his Mars cards, I could have just nuked all of them and been in a much better spot than him. Alright, so that'll wrap things up. Started the grind off with a really close game. Definitely ended up in his favor. That key abduction play was the play of the game for sure. Stay tuned. I think we've got about 8, maybe 10 videos in this series from one day of just playing Keyforge nonstop. If you like the content, as always, hit subscribe, hit follow, check out all my social media profiles, and spread the word. Until next time, take care.